think
the
that
session as well.
We are around 40 people, 45. So I think that other people will join. So let's start. I would say most of you are muted, but good morning to everyone. We are so happy to host this webinar, this second quarter deep dive. ITsMine deep dive, and in terms of registered, we are doubling the number of the tech deep dive of Q1. So we are already very happy. Together with me there are Ran Norman, that is the CTO and co-founder of ITsMine, and he will give a good part of the presentation. And as you can see, Kfir, everyone knows Kfir, and he's the CEO and another co-founder of ITsMine, and so he will start the first part of the presentation. So my name is Stefano Volpi. I am the VP Sales for the European market at ITsMine. I'm super happy to have all you here. We hope that the meeting will be a great success, and you will exit from the meeting with the confidence that to sell and to protect data everywhere is simple. So I would say I was starting saying that we are doubling the number of the people registered compared to Q1, and this is for us a very good symptom that the companies are really deeply looking to tools, applications, solutions that are allowing them to protect the data anywhere and everywhere. So this is what we do, what we want to share with you. We will speak about 4 main topics. So the first one is how to help the organization in sharing the data internally and externally in a secure way. The second is clearly how we protect data and from data breach and data loss. Then how we comply, we allow the compliance of norms and regulation, not only of GDPR, but also worldwide regulation. And last but not least, we will share how we help companies in empower the employees in the use of the company data. That is more and more important. So we will share features and functions, and but we want to let you perceive how it could be easy, effective, agentless, without long installation, and without the need of classification. So I would say that we have an agenda that is will take 1 hour and a half. You can do a question and answer in any moment. I will try to wrap up. If there is something that is urgent to understand the seminar, I will interrupt our Kfir and Ran, but otherwise we will use the last half an hour. Our goal is to leave the meeting, let you leave the meeting with the confidence that protecting the data is simple and could be done. So the market needs this, and we want you to to exit from here with something that is really helpful for you and for the market. Let me say that today we are having people from many countries. We are having a leading global service provider. We are having big system integrators and end users. So we will remain with contents that are useful for all, and please enjoy the meeting. So we'll start Kfir, and the agenda is he will speak about how to protect the data. He will share about success stories, and then we will pass we hand over to Ran, that will share about use cases and features. That he will speak about our new data breach emergency center. Then he will share about the roadmap, and then tips and recommendations. So please enjoy, and Kfir, please, up to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefano. First of all, to arrange this webinar, and second for all the people that have attended. We are very lucky to have you all with us, and let's start. So I would like to start by explaining from the last quarters that we have a discussion, a deep dive discussion. We saw that the trend of companies and employees working from home keeps on going, and we understand after many discussions with customers, mainly in Europe and also in the US, that one of the major benefits that our customers see today with our solution is actually to enable sharing of information with supply chain and with employees when they're working everywhere. Okay, so companies already moved to the cloud, or at least a hybrid environment. They are using the Microsoft 365 or the Google Workspace, and they want to use the capability of sharing information. But companies want to do it in a more secured way. And this is basically where we are unique. We want to talk with our customers about enablement. And the enablement is of course needs to protect and control data everywhere. It's need to be easy, because we don't have the luxury as of today to have many IT security team expert in each and every organization. We want to minimize the work that we need to do. So implementation and working with solution have to be very simple. So no inline network appliances, no endpoint agent installed on every endpoint all the time, and also without the need of the heavy uplift of classification. So we will talk about what is it that we are doing in this space, but we want immediately after implementation that the customer will be able to see the value in the product, to meet with regulatory requirement, and to protect against data breaches. Whether it is data loss or data breach, external attacker, as we discussed in the past, of ransomware or next generation ransomware, which we started to see, ransomware that trying to encrypt the company data or trying to steal the company data, or other kind of ransomware that we saw that trying to change the data to make it something that the customer cannot use anymore. And our uniqueness, and I think that this is what we should always emphasize, is about engaging our employees. When we are working in the cloud, when we have subcontractors, when we have supply chain users, we want to engage them to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And that is our uniqueness in ITsMine. We always put the employee and the user in the center. So in order to explain it in a better way, I want to take a success story. A customer of ours that called BetterUp. It's not a huge company. It's a company with 350 users. The company is doing coaching to employees. So when insurance company came to them, big insurance company, and they want to coach their management people, they wanted BetterUp to protect the data that they are sharing about their employees. So the data that they are sharing is not necessarily social security number or emails. It's more about what the employee have been established, what he did in the past, the CV of the user, and many cases, a very delicate information about that user, about that employee, that the insurance company want to share with BetterUp in order to do the coaching in the right way. BetterUp, most of the users are actually external trainers, people that are not necessarily employees of BetterUp. Those people are sitting everywhere. They need the access to that data that the insurance company is sharing with them, but the BetterUp team needs to make sure that it is secured. Most of the trainers do not use companies' devices, And the company itself, as BetterUp, is a cloud-native company working with Google Workspace as a main product in the cloud. They don't have a data center. So I'm taking this example because I think that it shows very clearly the gap and where ITsMine fit in the security supply chain for the BetterUp as well. So the major challenge of BetterUp is that data is basically everywhere. They need to meet with regulatory requirement in order to sign this contract with the insurance company. They have to meet with GDPR, with California Consumers Privacy Act, and they're afraid about data breach and data loss. Whether there's going to be a ransomware attack that will block all this data or share it outside. And of course, if trainer will leave the organization, what happened with all the leftovers of data that he have on his computer? It's not a company device. So with that, we're basically going to show you what was the journey that we did with the customer. The first stage was to track the data. The coverage was the entire Google Workspace. In 30 minutes, we were able to connect the Google Workspace API to our solution, and we were able to track every access of a user to the data, every change, every delete, every movement of data inside of the Google Workspace. We could show it to the security team. We could present for each user, external, internal, a trainer, what are their permissions and what they are doing over time. The first step was to show BetterUp what people are really doing with the company data. And when we did that, we could also understand, because when we implement the solution with Google Workspace, we already, after 1 hour, we can see 6 months of data of every access of a user. So we could show them immediately also the heat map. Again, we are talking about sharing information, and we believe in ITsMine that in order to increase the value of the data, you need to share it and use it. So if data is not being used and not being shared, the value of the data is lower. Of course, there are different cases where we have the Coca-Cola perception that might be very, very important to the company. That can be handled in a little bit different way. But our goal is to enable sharing. So we want the people to share information, but again, we want to protect it. So with the heat map, we are basically automatically, without any configuration, we can tell the company, okay, this is where people are sharing information internally and externally. Those are the areas that people are really using on a daily basis. This is where we should look at in this week. And having this capability allows us to move to the second stage, which is the employee-centric protection. Our goal is to help the company to be more secured and to see the progress over time. And here come a personal note. Now, we really love the way that anti-phishing solutions change the way that people behave with companies' emails. We investigated it. Why it was so powerful, the change that companies like KnowBe4, like Proofpoint, have done in the industry when they started to do the employees training in a little bit a different way. We had employees awareness training for more than 20 years, but it was something that was done once a year, twice a year, and no one really paid attention. What really the people pay attention to is when something proactively in real time needed them to do the training because something that they did. So with anti-phishing solutions, they create fake emails, share it with the users, and when the users click on the fake email, they get the training. So we are doing exactly the same today with exactly the same approach, and by the way, also with the same effort to the company data. Instead of creating fake emails, we create fake files. We call them softermines. These files simulate customers' real data, looks like the customer real data that no one should access. Those files that we create we first need to present it to the users. So we don't have to start with everything. We start with a small group, with the IT security team, with the IT team, the HR, the finance. We create for them a campaign. We start to explain them why we need their help, why we need to protect the company data. And we put the ransomware as an important topic that we need to handle. So I'm going to share with you the short video clip that I believe that most of you already seen it, but I really think that it will help to understand how do we position the ITsMine to the users. Okay, so let's have 1 minute to see that information.
Did you know the average cost of a data breach is $8.19 million? And one of the biggest culprits is ransomware. Ransomware is carried out by an attacker with the intention of harming or encrypting important company files to damage the company or to receive the ransom they're requesting. In 2019, ransomware damage cost companies $7.5 billion. An attacker's main goal is to get your credentials to gain access to files. We need your help in protecting our company's property by closing the door to areas you don't access anymore. We send emails about important areas you haven't accessed. If you don't need access, click I don't need access. We add files to important areas in the file storage to protect against attackers. Avoid using, deleting, or downloading unfamiliar files. If you do, you might see the following message. An automatic scan will run on your device to ensure there is no malware. Important data can be uploaded here. The file will be added automatically with a call home functionality that will allow the security team to track it even beyond company boundaries and block the use of the data. Thank you for your cooperation.
So as time goes by, we would be able to have more ITsMines available in the company. People will do the training, and we will see that as time goes by, people less and less touching ITsMines. So the amount of access denied event, the people that access to data that they're not supposed to goes down as well. And people even closing accesses to places that they don't use anymore. This is happening also for my supply chain users. If I'm a bank and I need to share information with my law firm, the lawyer from the other side is also being trained, can be also being trained, and we can close accesses to places when that person stops working with our project. And that is done automatically. And the big benefit is once we have those ITsMines, except from seeing the change in the company and seeing that people are being trained and do not touch files that they're not supposed to, we have now the capability to stop external attackers. When we have a device, managed or unmanaged device, employee router at home, a server that we could not implement CrowdStrike solution on, if that device is trying to encrypt the ITsMine, we can immediately isolate that system automatically. So we can protect against ransomware or even next generation ransomware completely automatically once we have those ITsMines available. Those ITsMines can tell us when there is an external attacker that tried to steal company data, and they could be like a tripwire to understand if something wrong is happening in the system. Our solution can zoom into specific devices when they trip on this tripwire, on this ITsMine, and we would be able to understand whether the user is next to the computer and what is the risk level of that user without harming the privacy of the employees. So the first two stages took us from tracking to every access of a user in all of our file storages to have a plan and an execution to see KPIs of the results of the training and planting more and more ITsMines to make the central file storages the right place to put the sensitive data. In BetterUp use case, again, it was a Google Workspace. And then we could move to the last stage, which this is where we started with BetterUp, because when the insurance company wants to share information with us, with our trainers, we want to be able to track and protect this data everywhere. And for that, we're using the file GPS and time bomb. We are sharing with Google Workspace, we're marking the folder that is being shared with the insurance company with file GPS and time bomb. And immediately every file that is being shared automatically can be tracked everywhere, and the protection goes with the file. More than this, with the time bomb capability, we can make sure that the data is always centralized. When the trainer will download those files, he would be able to work on them like the policy allows them to be done. In our case, it would be view only. In BetterUp case, it would be view only. But more than this, 2 days after they're using the file, if they forgot those files on their endpoint devices, even if it's not managed devices or mobile phone, the data will expire and they will have to download the file again after those 2 days. So the beauty of it is we are making this folder like a library. Data have to be centralized and have to be kept internally. Just like in VOD case, in video on demand, when you can see the movie for 24 hours, 48 hours, and then you need to download it again if you want to see it again. So by doing this, we are capable to basically track company data, to enable organization to share information with supply chain and employees securely and everywhere. We can track the data. The coverage is the entire company's file storages. So on-prem and in the cloud, the Microsoft 365, the Teams, the SharePoint Online, the OneDrive, the Google Workspace, the Dropbox, all looks exactly the same. We can imply the employee-centric protection. According to the campaigns, the coverage will increase. Effort is very similar to anti-phishing. And the last part is control and centralized that will allow us to protect and control the files themselves everywhere. So just to finish up with my presentation, I want to share with you another use case. And again, I will let Sean to talk about it, and then Ron will dive into the technology and to the specific areas that we wanted to show about the progress in Q1. So Patra, again, a very similar use case, a supply chain of FSI with insurance companies and banks that need their services. With 3,800 people globally, we were capable to protect their data in 5 weeks. The idea is again to make it simple for them to be able to protect company data, to make the central file storage the right place to put the sensitive data, and to be able to stay in control, see that the employees are being trained, and to have one place to visible everything. So I will let Sean explain what is it that he got from the system. It's 2 minutes of discussion and of a video, and then Ron will continue.
My name's Sean Kennedy. I'm the Chief Security Officer for Patra Corporation. We're an insurance services company, and we service agents, brokers, and carriers throughout the United States. Currently, Patra globally is around 3,700 employees. The need started to come about by a lot of requests from our clients, and then also just a natural progression with the growth of the company. We were able to, I think, stand up the initial instance, I think, in 1 or 2 days. You see what users are doing, and you can rapidly see, high-end high-end users, low-end users, who's touching what. You you can really get a feel for where people are putting and accessing data. With the work from home model, that's become really, that part of it has become really important to me.
Yeah.
That we can identify those certain areas where we know that there's critical information, and we have role-based access, like every other good company does around security, but people make mistakes, or people get into places they're not supposed to. And so that feature, allowing us to get alerted if something's left the environment, that's not supposed to leave the environment, and tell us where it is, and gives that extra layer of visibility. Is I think it's really important. We were looking at a lot of other solutions that were, very complex and very expensive, and we saw this, and it seemed like just a better fit for what we were trying to accomplish from a security standpoint. Your team obviously very responsive and helping us get everything rolled out. Excited to have the software and the technology in place, and I think we're in a much better stance now, security stance, than we were prior to having the ITsMine.
Okay. So Ran?
All right. So first, thank you very much, Kfir, for the introduction, and of course Stefano for making it happen and orchestrating all of this stuff. After we heard about the concept and about the general idea of the solution, and needless to say that BetterUp and Patra, of course, are a glimpse of the value that we provide to our customers. I wanted to dive into the product itself and discuss the different use cases that Kfir has mentioned before, and show you how it happens, show you how you can make it happen in the environment, and benefit of what the solution can provide. So I will start with sharing my screen, and of course, without further ado, show the solution itself. I will jump between two screens and show you how it looks both from the admin point of view and also how the users are seeing it. So you will have a clear picture of how the solution, of course, stands from both directions. The three major use cases that I want to discuss are first, third-party file sharing. So supply chain users that need access to the data, but still, of course, since they access my data, I want to have some degree of control over it. And of course, I want to know who accesses it and where and when. Second, with the new model that employees are working from home, how the solution can assist the organization manage the security around the data that is all over, that is all of a sudden spread on managed and unmanaged devices, BYOD devices. So how we can assist them in protecting this data. And of course, again, as part of the new model, where organization, as we see also in Europe, when organizations are moving to the cloud, for some parts, moving to the cloud, of course, is a hard task. So moving certain workloads, certain departments, certain information to the cloud. So again, how we can bring the protection suite around this, around those use cases, and how we can assist customers in protect this data in this new reality. So let's start with, I think, what is the thing that is more and most interesting for you, and you're probably asking yourself how it happens, which is how can I control the data and protect it even after it left the organization, after employees downloaded the data to the computer, after third-party users, supply chain, downloaded information or access it after it was shared. So I will start with how the admin sees it. Of course, I will not dive into how do we configure the bits and bytes. That's something that we will be able to do later on. So I'm looking at our demo environment, and I'm looking at a specific folder that we will focus on that is called company docs. Some of you are already familiar with it. Except the files that we have here, we have also created, for file sharing, we have created 4 different folders. We have created the full access folder, the Outbox 10 encryption, the view and edit, and the view only folders. Now, you could have guessed by now that each and every folder will serve a unique purpose in what files within, what users can do with the files within. So full access, we have put the same file in all of those folders in order to show you the difference. What are the permissions when the users will have full access? What are the permissions when they will have view and edit, and also how the users are going to see it when I'm having an Outbox encryption folder. So if I will access the full access, for example, I'm referring to the file GPS file. Of course, contains the list of the user's activity that I wanted to share, but I also want to control it. So I'm going to the endpoint. As part of the demo environment, we have a demo endpoint that has access to the file storage. So the file share that we are referring to is an SMB file share, but is just for the purpose of the demonstration. As Kfir mentioned, everything that we can do for the SMB storage in terms of the file embedded protection, we can also do for the 365, for the Google Workspace, for Dropbox for Business, and all of the other storages that we support. So I'm going to go to that directory. We're already familiar with the structure, and we see those 4 folders. Remember, we have the file GPS file. So I'm going to start with the view only. Now, naturally, since I have marked this folder, since I felt the need as an admin to mark this folder, because those files are going outside, the solution automatically identified it as a folder that contains information that it will be very critical to protect. And that's exactly why we are seeing here another file, which is a software mine that was created automatically. But with your permission, I will focus on the real file and on the protection around it, the file embedded protection. So I'm taking this file, and once I open it, let's enable editing. Once I open it, I see here that I have restricted access, that the permission is restricted, and I am limited as a user that is now connected, that is now signed in. I am limited with the actions that I'm able to perform. Now I can click on view permission and see exactly what I am allowed and not allowed to do. Here it's very straightforward. All I can do is view this file. Now, one thing that is very, very important to remember or to see that is copying is disabled, which is very critical if we want to put and keep the content within the file. Now I have the ability to request additional permissions, and then of course it will be forwarded to the admin, but I would prefer to show you what you can and cannot do. So of course, viewing the file is enabled. Otherwise, we won't be able to open it. But remember that I enabled editing. if I will try and type, I will receive a message that the permission to this workbook are restricted. So I cannot really edit. I cannot put additional content in this file. I don't have the ability to change it. So also from data integrity, I know that the file that I'm seeing here is the file that was shared with me because the view-only permission is applied. So I cannot edit the file. What about taking its content to another file and possibly trying to manipulate the data? Let's try and make a very simple example, because if I will right click, I see that I cannot copy it. But this is not the only way to copy information, right? If I will try to copy and paste, put Control-C, and for example, open a notepad. Of course, I cannot paste it. What I was able to paste is the previous thing that I've copied. What about print a screen? Click on print screen and try to paste it, to paste the image. This is what I'm going to see. A black screen, so the content always remains within the file. Of course, I can duplicate that file. I'm able to do that, but still same permissions will apply. So I can create 100 copies, but all I will have is view only permission. So you got a picture of what are the limitations and what are the capabilities. But sometimes I don't want to just share information for view only. Sometimes I want the user to be able to edit it. Sometimes I'm sharing this file so multiple users will be able to work on. And that's exactly for the view and edit. I will open the same file. Let's enable editing and click on view permission. I can edit the file and I can save it. So I can change the information. Example here, I can change and I can save it. But still, if I will try to copy that file, to copy the content of this file, I won't be able to do that. So it is still, I'm still restricted. Remember, copy is disabled. And of course, needless to say that printing is disabled as well. So the protection goes with the file. The file embedded protection will apply even if I shared it with a third party, even if the employee downloaded the files to his home computer and worked on them. The protection goes with the file. I know when the file, I know that it is protected. Of course, whenever and wherever it is in use.
Ran, we are having a couple of questions related to this specific point. So yes. I wanted probably make sense if I do it. So the first one is, what if the attacker converts the file to base 64? I'm reading it.
Okay.
And the second, what will happen if we try to use the snipping tool?
So relating to the first question, the file itself is encrypted. So the only way to see its content is open it via a supported application. So if the user will try to convert it, the underlying content is already encrypted. Regarding the
snipping tool,
the best way is what you see. The best way to understand is what you see. I'm really trying.
Last on this specific item that you are covering, are the permission rules like edit, copy, read defined or created in ITsMine dashboard?
So some of them are created in our dashboard. Some of them are created as part of the integration with Microsoft Information Protection, where it allows also mix of those permissions.
Okay, we have a couple of general questions, but we can cover afterwards.
Okay, thank you. So, needless to say, the full access will provide me full access. And just for you to understand that when I have full access, my capabilities are not harmed. In this case, of course, I can copy the data. And in this case, the sniffing tool would work as well. So for full permissions, I really have full permissions. So I can do basically everything. And it's not just about limiting. One last topic that I wanted to cover when it comes to the file embedded protection is the Outbox 10 encryption. The Outbox 10 is part of also the training video that Kfir presented. Talks about the time bomb. Talks about the ability to set up expiration date to files. So once they downloaded from the storage, basically the clock starts ticking. After X amount of days, and we had a question before, the minimum amount is 1 day. It is counting days. After X amount of days, the file will become unusable if it was downloaded from the storage. The file, as I mentioned earlier, the underlying file, the underlying content is encrypted. So basically, the file will become inaccessible. And in order to access the content, we will need to take it from the storage again. How does it look like? I'm going to open the file, and then I see that my permission will expire on May 30th, 10 days from now. Again, we're at the Outbox 10. What happened to a file that I downloaded yesterday? To this file that was downloaded a day before. Remember, yesterday, that was the expiration date. So since I downloaded it from the storage, the clock started ticking from this file. And on May 29th, this file will become unusable. Of course, after the meeting, if you would like us to share some of those files with you, so you will be able to play, we would be more than happy to see how the file is expired and how that protection applies. But it's not just that, because the way that it works with our customers is we fit ourselves to the dynamic reality that currently resides. So files are being moved, files are being created. We want to make sure that the files that needs to have this protection will have it. For example, I will take this file, a file that I created that I wanted to apply the same level of protection. Now I know that this view-only folder applies protection template of viewing only that file. So I'm going to drag the file here. Now again, this is a file that I want to protect, and eventually we don't want the admin users to do all the work. We want to delegate it to the users. We want to delegate it to the business owners. So in this case, the company docs belongs to a specific department, and I configured those folders with those protection templates inside. But from that point, the security team or the admin of the solution is not required anymore, because the users can work with the file. With the files, of course, putting files inside. And as you can see, I uploaded the file to the relevant folder, and it received the permissions as was configured by the admin. And this was made, it happened by the user. The admin had no involvement here. So the user uploaded the file here, it received the protection template, and then the file can be shared outside. So to recap this file embedded protection, we offer configuring certain permissions for protecting those files when they are shared with supply chain users. Critical areas that I know that can be synced to employees' endpoints. Again, unmanaged devices back home. Sorry. And once I configure those areas, I'm not required as the admin of the solution. Makes my life much easier, because now the business units can work with those folders independently, share the files with the relevant users while maintaining this protection. So, of course, if you have any questions on it, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will reply with pleasure. The other aspect that I wanted to cover relates to the human factor of data protection. Of course, I can have all of the security layers exist, but some of the effort needs to be by training my employees, train the employees of the organization, because the human factor plays a critical role in protecting the data. I want the employees to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And that's exactly why we have the training campaigns in place. Training campaigns, those are the anti-data phishing campaigns that we have created, making sure that the employees knows how to work with the data, making sure that we train the users and keep them aware of the right way to work with the data. The training campaigns, the employee awareness campaigns, involves an automatic interaction with the users, with the employees of the organization. Once I set up the campaign, of course, I had to choose who are the target for this campaign, and also what is the data that I want to cover, where I want to put those software mines, our technology. I've also configured what messages I want to be sent, what messages I want to send when the campaign starts, when one of the users accessed one of the software mines, and therefore I need to assist them in understand that mines should not be accessed, and also how I remind them periodically that they are part of this training campaign and they actually need to understand, and I need them to keep in the back of their mind that they have access to sensitive information, and the organization asks them to help protecting. Addressing the human factor, we are putting a lot of thought and a lot of effort into making sure that the engagement of those users will be as smooth as possible, and they will understand the entire process and understand how to work with the data, where to put the sensitive data, how to share it outside, and also do not sniff around, access only what you need, and try to stay away from the software mines. So we do it. The training campaigns is usually based on the size of the organization, is being done in phases. We start with groups, with certain groups that requires it the most, and over time we expand. We send the messages to more and more users. We put the software mines, cover more and more areas, and present it to the security team, present the results, understand exactly who are the users that participated, what is the trigger for the message to be sent, what is the status. So just for you to get a clear picture, status can vary from pending, which means that I haven't sent the message yet, until accepted. Along the way, I have a couple of steps. I know when the users clicked on the training video link that is embedded in the email that shows the video. that Kfir showed before. I know when they started the video. I know if they stopped, of course, in the middle or completed it. But most importantly, I know if they accepted. Because at the end of the training video, I ask the users to acknowledge and basically accept the company policy. I store those acknowledgements and present it in a very simple way. Of course, all I need to do is that. Looking at the users that accepted is highly critical, because the goal of this training campaign, or part of the goals of the training campaigns, is to understand who are the bad users, or understand who are the cyber heroes, being able to categorize them from the cyber heroes to the good users, the ones that requires additional training, and the ones that requires review or the Rotten Tomatoes, if you may, allowing the users, allowing the security team to focus on those users, focus on the ones that never completed the training, focus on the ones that keep stepping on software mines, focus on them and being able to be more direct about the messaging that is being sent to them and about the progress that they need to achieve. Of course, the users that accepted the first training and didn't access a software mine are on the other side of the equation, because those are the users that help me in protecting the organization. Now, other parts that I have here in the training report are the ability to understand exactly who are the users that accessed the software mines, to understand the bad activity, understand who are the users that access software mines and when, and also what is the coverage? How many users do I have? How many enrolled? And also how many software mines were created in each and every campaign at each and every day. We will talk later on about how to optimize this as part of our tips and recommendations part, on how to optimize it and how to make sure that it is covered from all angles in a simple way.
Ron, if I may, just one comment here, because I think that this is one of the greatest feedbacks that we get from customers, is about the policy that we share with the users also after the training. So the capability to train my supply chain, if I'm a bank, and to train the lawyer that is part of my supply chain, and I can train them as well with the company's policy. And I can make sure that they understand that although I shared with them the complete team room, I am expecting them to touch only the data that belongs to them, and they understand what is my company policy. This is really important, that it's not just their managers that knows what are the expectations because he signed the contract with us, but also the employees themselves, the users themselves. And that's one of the greatest differentiation when we are sharing information with supply chain, with our users, and with our subcontractors.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. So same here. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we will do our best to reply.
Aaron, perhaps we can, just to make it interactive, we were having a couple of questions from before. So one was about the cross-platform. So is the solution cross-platform? Are there any devices? It works with Apple, iOS. So this is the question.
The answer is yes. Would you prefer to have it one by one? You see the
There is
questions.
another one only. What is the smallest value of the time bomb?
Okay. Okay, so we will do it in groups. Since the protection is file embedded, we support all platforms. I don't care if the file is located on a Windows device, on macOS, on iOS, Android. Since the protection is within the file and goes with the file, it is platform independent. Now, the time bomb, the smallest amount is 1 day. It is count in days.
Okay, and if I also may add to the file GPS, because again, this is a repeatable customer's question, and it is about, okay, so how do we differentiate ourselves from Microsoft DLP and Microsoft Information Protection? What is the benefits to use, ITsMine over the Microsoft Information Protection directly? And do you want to answer, Ran, or should I? Okay,
yeah.
Go right ahead.
So the main benefit, actually, there are two main benefits when it comes to the difference and what is that we are adding. First, we are much more cost effective. All we require is one license for the organization. Even if you have 10 users, even if you have 500, 5,000, or 100,000, all we need is one license. Because we manage the protection around those files, and we do it, again, through the platform. So all we need is one license, which costs around $2 or €2 per month. So we are much more cost effective comparing to purchasing a license to each and every user within the organization. You do the math. Second benefit is that the keys belong to the organization, not the user. If you have a user that works with the files and basically creating a mess by putting those protection over files, once the user leaves the organization, the key goes with him. The files are lost. In our case, of course, we are, again, the keys belong to the organization. We are very transparent with the ability to use this protection. So decoding the files or removing the protection at any point is possible.
So I thank you, Ron, and I would like to emphasize just a little bit, because we started with the use case of BetterUp, and again, when the insurance companies share information with BetterUp, those files that the insurance companies share with BetterUp, and we activate the Microsoft Information Protection, those files will be owned by BetterUp security team. The owner, the user's owner, is the security team, which means that the end users might have read-write permissions, but he's not the owner. Okay, so first of all, the benefit is to help the customer to make it very easy. Okay, so adding the time bomb and the file GPS to that file done automatically. Our solution is keeping the time bomb available on a daily basis. So if the end user, the trainer, downloads the file today, tomorrow, 2 years from now, he will always have the same time expiration. So we don't need to be worried about that. And the second part, as Ron said, is the ownership of the data that belongs to the security team. Now the whole idea is to use this capability in order to share the information in secure way and to be able to centralize it. We do see customers that some C-level people, some CFO might be in the company that want to have the ownership of the data, and then they just buy another E5 license to that user, and they could allow that user to use the full capability and to own his data. So again, it's not one against each other, it's actually enablement. So if you are using E3 licenses and you want to have some of your users to use E5 licenses, this is exactly where we can fit in and build that capabilities that for most of your users, you would be able to share the information with Microsoft Information Protection, but again, with the ownership of the data of the security team. The 5%, the 10% of the users with the E5 licenses would be able to be their owners of the data.
Exactly. Thank you, Kfir. And most importantly, we don't, there's no collision. We coexist if there is a need for different ownership and specific different a specific user that wants to have access or ownership of this data. So there's no collision. We can coexist, and we already see it happen. The last part that I wanted to cover as part of the things that we've worked on in the last couple of months, part of the team that part of the features that our team has been worked on, and you know, it is very important also to mention the effort that the guy, our VP R&D, and also one of the co-founders and his team is making, is taking the external and basically the working from home and making sure that the organization has a very clear picture of what's going on. So with your permission, in this case, I will go to an environment that is cloud-based. And here, basically, we added something very interesting, which is the user type. The user type allows me to look only at what external users are doing, to being able to separate between what my internal users are doing and what data they access, and also what data the external users have access. So this is part of course, of our environment that we run. I'm sure that if I will go for external, you will be able to recognize yourself on the list, but I will keep it as it is. So being able to look exactly at what external users are doing, being able to look at what files were downloaded, what files were shared, what is who is the destination, who is the recipient of that share action, who is now allowed to access my data. We have extended the visibility that the platform provides into areas that allows the customer to get a broader picture of what's going on, of where's my data, who's accessing it, where's the data located. I can go to the external users and look at everything that they downloaded to see what are the files that I know that is probably on external users or third-party computers. I can look at the share action to see what are the files that were shared, who is the user that shared them, and with whom. And I can also look at upload at unshare as the opposite. And I can also understand if the files were synchronized or downloaded. So getting this clear picture, of course, we have it from the activity. We have it also on the relevant reports. But additional thing that we have added, and I believe that we have discussed it before in our previous webinar, is the geolocation. So looking at it from a different angle, looking at where is my data accessed from. All of the countries that the data has been accessed from, of course, based on the filtering and based on the number of accesses. Now, I'm going to double click here, and then you will see that I'm starting to drill down. I'm starting to drill down from the country to the region. I can drill down even more to the city and to the exact coordinates that the data has been accessed from. And eventually look exactly at what are the files that that were accessed from this location, who is the user that accessed them, and of course, what is the action that that was performed. The first initialization or the first fetching may take a couple of seconds. But what we are going to see is the activity from that area, the activity from Tel Aviv, and based on those coordinates. So I mentioned the guy earlier. You can see that he puts a lot of effort and puts a lot of work. Looking exactly at what this user did on this specific area. So going back, and of course here we can see the download actions. Going back to the broader picture, looking at where the data has been accessed from, getting this report, being able to export it and go, naturally, Israel makes sense. But what about the other countries? Would it make sense or not? It's very easy to understand what are the files that were accessed in each and every country, in each and every region. And we are able to take it from day one. So understanding where the data has been accessed from, understand who are the users that downloaded it, understand the amount of data that is now located outside of my storage, and understand who are the users, internal and external, that use it, including the anonymous users that we really don't like to see, since our recommendation is to disable the anonymous sharing. So if you have any questions about this part, again, you can put it in the chat. Stefano, do you have any questions that you would like to bring up?
Yes, I was having from Andrea a question that was provided some minutes ago, and it was technical. I hope to be able to understand it correctly. Does it work with, and it was, you know, in the first part, does it work with alternate data streams attribute beyond ERP adds to the file? So
it goes, basically the encryption takes the file, the process takes the file and encrypts it as it is. The application that opens the file is responsible, either natively or using an add-on, to decrypt it, decode it, and then all I have is the real file. But after I was validated it was validated that I can open it. Important comment related to this question, and in general, using the Microsoft Information Protection integration, we are able to protect, and I know it will take a minute to understand that, but we are able to protect any kind of file. There are two parts to it, and I'm going a bit back. First, we have the file types that we are able to provide complete protection, which means that I'm able to determine if the user is able to open the file or not, and also being able to determine if specific actions can be performed. Read, write, copy, print, etc. Those are the file types that we have a very we can have a very deep protection. The file types that are not included in this list, we can protect them using a binary question. Is this user allowed to open the file and view the content or not? If the answer is no, then of course I'm not opening the file to the user, and the user will not be able to see the content. If the answer is yes, the user will be able to open the file, see the content, and we'll be able to do anything. So I can still determine if the user is able to access the file, but once the file was accessed, his actions are based on what the application provides with no limitations in terms of protection. So that's an important comment.
Good, good. Thank you, Aran. Another question interesting from Luca related to location by country. What if an attacker is using tool VPN proxy to hide the real country from which he is trying to access company data?
So we will see the IP address of the VPN server, but we are able to identify that it is that he's connected via VPN, and I will still be able to see even if he's connected by VPN. Remember, I will be able to see who is the user, and I will be able to see exactly what he did when I will drill down.
Okay, we are okay with all the questions so far.
Okay. So recapping what we have discussed in terms of the new features that we worked on lately to provide solutions to the use cases that we have described. When we have, we want to assist organizations to protect data when it was shared outside of the organization to supply chain users or third parties, subcontractors. We want to assist customers when employees are working from home on unmanaged BYOD devices. And also in the new reality where organizations, some move to the cloud, need to move the data to the cloud and making sure that it is secure. That's exactly why we have created the file embedded protection to provide protection on the file itself on different levels, different layers, and the time bomb. That's why we have enabled the training, because when the employee is working from home, I want to make sure that he's part of the solution and not part of the problem when it comes to protecting the data and working with sensitive data the right way. And we extended the reports that we provide to distinguish between the internal and external and understand exactly where the data has been accessed from, giving VPN limitations. Look at. Now, needless to say, we would be happy to show those capabilities to you in person if you would like to schedule a tech meeting. So we will present and discuss it with you separately. The next thing that I wanted to discuss, and forgive me for going to the slides, is the Data Breach Emergency Center. We have created a center that concludes the information and the actionable items that is located here when there is an organization, there is a security guy in the organization that suspect that is experiencing a potential breach. So this website contains guides, contains resources, contains reports to assist customers, to assist organizations in understanding what's going on, and also how it can be controlled. So in less than 1 hour or even 30 minutes, deployment, we made deployment possible and integrating with one of the cloud vendors where we can go back in time. We receive past activity and then assess what happened, understand what's going on, and being able to orchestrate a solution, obtaining the relevant evidences, installing software mines to being able to protect the data and detect potential information that already left, and also making sure that we are in control. So in order to do that, we are integrating with the solution. Integrate the solution with the main storage, and make sure that we have what is required to get a clear picture. Of course, as part of this website, we have a short video for configuring the cloud storages, configuring the Google Workspace, configuring the Office 365. When we click on the emergency installation, we are getting additional resources. So your customers or your customers will be able to get a very clear and quick understanding of what's going on. So the data breach detection, the data breach emergency center is accessible to you, accessible to your customers, accessible to organizations, with all of the guides and all of the resources that are available here. Now, this is also something that we worked on, of course, and are, as we have discussed, as we have seen earlier, the reports and the capabilities that we have added supports it. What the future holds. So we have performed a lot of features development according to our roadmap. We have researched a lot, created a lot of functionality that is the major part of this webinar. Extended the reporting, embedded the file protection, made sure that we have everything that is needed, made sure that we turned things even simpler. The next phase is to make the deployment, make the capabilities much more simple, even more simple than it is now. And we are going to do that using by creating the SaaS platform. Creating the SaaS platform and the unified MSP platform, so your customers will have an easy onboarding when it comes to protecting the assets, without the need of deploying virtual machines, start handling with what space do I have, what resources do I have, and what firewall rules do I need to open. Our team is highly, of course, you've witnessed by now, but our team is highly professional and makes sure, as we speak, that those platforms will be available and will serve their purpose when it comes to protecting the data, when it comes to visibility, and also, again, providing a complete suite and a robust data protection that will cover, that will protect the data everywhere, will assist organization in meeting with regulatory compliance, remediate threats, train the employees without the need of the cumbersome content-based classification. So we have the SaaS platform, we have the unified MSP platform, we have the integration that we are creating in order to support cloud-managed endpoints protection. We keep extending the reports, we keep making the platform more and more advanced. And of course, we keep adding more storages into the pool, into the support.
Great.
Yeah.
Noran, I was having another question from
Sure.
our friend Gino, that he was asking related to the emergency center, I'm sure. So as far as external user, like subcontractor, is concerned, does they have to be registered in ITsMine platform? How this registration happens? How ITsMine is able to recognize them?
So subcontractors for the organization, I assume.
Yeah.
We are looking, we are understanding based on the data that we gather, what is the scope of the users that has access to the data, that have access to the data. And from that, we conclude who are the users that we need to protect with. The knowledge or the user base comes from two areas. It comes from the directory service, Active Directory, Azure AD, Okta, Jump Cloud, but it also comes from the activity itself. So once the external user access the information, or once, even before that, once information was shared with this external user, is part of my user base. Of course, I have to distinguish that he is an external user, but he's part of my user base. And in order to initiate the training campaign on him, it is a matter of checking a box.
Great. Thank you, Ran. So our guests are muted. So if they want to do other additional questions, we are super happy. We have sometimes some minutes to answers. Otherwise, Kfir, any final remarks?
So I think that that again, just to go back to that question of what need to be when I'm sharing information with a third party, what they need to do in order to see this data when I'm sharing with them with Microsoft Information Protection. So again, if we allow them to access to the data, the important part that when they're accessing, just like I'm sharing with them Teams, and if they don't have Microsoft account, the first time they will need to create an account with Microsoft, which is free. Okay, they will need to create an account with Microsoft. If they already have an account with Microsoft, from our perspective, if the file is allowing them as part of the policy to use the information, they would be able to open it and use it according to the permissions that we gave them. So if we allowed outside subcontractors to use data in view only, they would be able to see the content as Ron said. So they don't need to buy licenses from Microsoft, but they do need to use one of the Microsoft services or PDF, and they need to authenticate in order to do that, and that basically requires them to have an account in Microsoft, again, which is free.
Thank you, Kfir. I have another question. It is more general. What are the automatic actions available in the case of detection of a threat? Which are the integrations with other security tools, antivirus, firewall, NAC, etc., needed to accomplish the automatic actions?
So the automatic actions vary based on the based on the threat that is identified. Using the software mechanism, it is very easy for us to identify the threat. When we identify that the software mines are encrypted, the ability to encrypt those files is something that is being performed by an external attacker, mostly by a ransomware. In this case, the automatic action is to block that device based on what the customer has. So the last resort is to shut down the endpoint. But we have a couple of integrations that we are cooking with EDR solutions to offer a broader umbrella when it comes to how we can eliminate these threats on devices, isolate those computers, making sure that they will not be accessible or they won't be able to access other resources of my network.
Good. Thank you, Ran. So, oh, sorry, there is another question arriving. It is covered by. Okay, let me do it. When will be the newly added features visible in the demo portal?
So they are already there. I have presented it through the demo portal.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ran.
Now, I wanted to discuss a bit about how we can make the use of the platform simpler for you, for your customers. There are a couple of points that by understanding them, the data is much more accessible. The data that we offer is much more accessible, and in the understanding of what happened becomes easier. So let me go back to the main dashboard. First of all, and this is a question or this is a remark that brought up a couple of times with our discussions with you, with some of you. What happens if I have multiple file storages and I have different directory services for each and every one? For example, I have Azure AD for my Office 365, and I have Active Directory for my on-prem storage, and I have Okta for my Google Drive. So we took that feedback, we understood that this is something that is urgent, and we have created a way to attach each and every directory service to a different file storage. Now, this is a feature that we have added lately. This is one of the enhancements. So it allows us to see the relevant users, see the relevant permissions for each and every file server based on what the actual storage that is being used. So we are very precise and very specific in the data that we that we present at this point. We have added the ability to create those multiple directory services, and in the process of creating, you're already familiar with the portal. Naturally, in the process of creating the file server, I'm also mentioning or putting the relevant directory service in place, and from that point, the solution is doing this correlation when it comes to the users and the permissions. Another thing, of course, this is configuration-wise. Another thing that I wanted to mention that relates to something that I discussed before. You would say, and it makes sense, what happens if I send this user this mail? I send a bunch of users this email. Let's go for the start training. I sent a bunch of users based on the date. Send them this email, but I want to keep sending them reminders, right? Because if they haven't completed the training in 2 weeks, I want to send them a reminder. So we have added this capability. All you need to do is mark that user and either right-click on the record or remind this user. I'm seeing exactly how many reminders I'm going to send because naturally I can choose multiple users here. So I can choose to send those 3 reminders, and then the users will receive it again. I will see those new records, those new messages, because remember, each message stands for its own, but When I will look at the user, I will see exactly what are the emails that he received and what is the status. Hopefully that after 2 weeks, when I send him the reminder, he will complete it. Additional feature that exists here is the manually accepting manually those messages. If I know that the user completed it and I want to have a more precise statistics, and for some reason it's not here, maybe I shared the wrong link with him, I can manually accept each and every record. Mark it as accepted, and then it will appear here. Okay, so the training report runs continuously, and this is very, very important. Now, we talk about the virtual minefield, and we talk a lot about what we have here, about the plant status column. The plant status is important because under the heat map in the virtual minefield is important because it allows us to understand whether we were able to put the software mines or not. The difference is very simple. I don't need to talk about success. Intended shadow means that I deliverably prevented software mines from being created, whether if it is by inclusion or exclusion. Shadow means that I have a threshold over, I have a space threshold that I have surpassed, and of course, failure is not something that we want to see. But how do we use the quick access? Let's say that I created the software mines and I've reminded the users and I've created the relevant directory service. We have here the capability of a quick access to specific user or specific endpoint or specific path. For example, and this is something that I can do with no questions asked, I can search for my user. And then I will be redirected automatically to the comprehensive user analysis, and it can be done for the endpoints too. So I don't need to go through all of the links and all of the categories and subcategories and search for my user. Within them, this quick access search field allows us to directly go to the relevant users or the relevant endpoints or the relevant paths.
So if I may, just to explain it in one sentence, when we have to combine the emergency portal and this capability, so we had cases in the past where we had customers that thought that one of the users, when they leave the company, might took data with them before he left the company, and that was a week ago. Okay, they could implement in the emergency to connect to their Google Workspace, to connect to their API of their Microsoft 365, implement the solution today, and see what that user was just searching the user name to see what they did across all of my cloud file storages in seconds. Okay, so they need to implement the solution. They will get the logs automatically for a couple of weeks in the case of Microsoft 365 and months when we are talking about Google or Dropbox. And we would be able to show the manager or to show the security team what this user actually did, although, again, they didn't have our product previously.
Yes, and this is also why we made it very simple to integrate the solution, even if it's already up and running, with cloud storages. You have an on-prem storage, and you all of a sudden start using Office 365. Your organization considers using cloud Office 365. The integration of our solution with that cloud storage is very simple, and the value that we get crosses beyond the current time, but also past time, if it exists. So it's very simple. We made it this way on purpose because we see difficulties. And sometimes we are part of those discussions about the difficulties of securing data that goes to the cloud, and this is exactly why we are here. So those were, again, couple of tips, couple of places to look and to make working with the solution better, from reporting, from training wise, from configuration wise. Of course, again, as I mentioned before, we would be happy to have those discussions with you, if you like, in private, and show you those things, how they run in the demo environment.
Thank you, Ran. I think that you covered with the tips, you know, the entire agenda, and I'm utilizing this last minute to see if some additional question will arrive. In any case, I think we may save a couple of minutes. I'm also looking if there are final remarks, but overall, you know, the agenda was covered. We hope that we remain enough technically. That is always the goal in these tech dives, but also we provide to every one of you also an overview of the solution and the feature and the functions that we are able to provide. So our goal, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to provide awareness that you know, protected data everywhere and anywhere. It is you know, doable, simple, effective, agentless, and we hope that we were able to make it happen. We will do another meeting like this in 1 quarter from now, so in the third quarter. But like Ran was saying, feel free to book through me or directly to Ran singular, you know, tech dive that may be half an hour, 1 hour, and we can, you know, go in deep to you know, clarification, POCs, giving access to our platforms, and so there are a technical department that is ready to support you. So I don't know if there are final remarks. Otherwise, we will finish at 11:15, saving a good 15 minutes. But I hope that the session was good.
Thank you very much. We had a great time explaining it, and you had a very, you know, interesting and beneficial question, I believe, for the sake of everyone.
Thank you.
We're looking forward.
Thank you, Kfir. Thank you, Ran. And so I will close the meeting, and feel free to you know, to enter in touch with us. Thank you so much. We will
thank you.
Look forward to work with all of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.